I really like what we're seeing with him. And Tracy says that his get off is better, his edge plays better. I absolutely love the fact that he's really stepping into it. Make no mistake about it. Make no mistake. Josh Sweat has gotten better and better and better and better and better. And Tracy's telling me how much he's getting better. I'll say one more thing before I bring Meryl Reese in. I said that Jalen Carter will be the next Jerome Brown. I said that on draft day. And when you hear a player like Fletcher Cox going like this, wow, this kid should have been the first pick in the draft. If I was sitting next to him and he said that to me, I'd look over at him and go, holy cow, does that motivate me? I'll tell you what motivates me is our good friend Meryl Reese, and he joins us now here on the National Football Show. Merrill, how about those comments, man? I mean, Fletcher Cox going like this, man. I mean, he sees Jalen Carter, and he goes, this kid should have been the first player drafted in the National Football League. And I'm just hearing he's having a great camp, and he's living up to all the expectations of what people thought his game was going to be. Now he just has to go out and do it.
Well, Dan, I think he probably would have been the first player picked in the NFL draft had it not been for the tragedy, the incident.
I do too. And you know what I love about the environment too, Merrill? I love the fact that you're hearing Darius Slay go, man, this Devontae Smith kid is going to be the best wide receiver in the league. You've got Fletcher making these comments. You've got you got Kelsey talking about Cam Jurgens and Tyler Steen and all these guys. It really shows the leadership in that building.
Dan, there's a lot of leadership in that building. There's a young player. I mean, you're talking about Jalen Carter, of course, but there's another guy out there, the third Eagles draft choice, who I'm going to tell you is going to be a star, and that is Sidney Brown, the safety out of Illinois. He reminds me, and it's always a dangerous thing to say things like this, but just take it to mean there's a feeling I get after watching him for practice after practice. We haven't played a regular game yet, but he reminds me of a young Brian Dawkins. He is a hellacious hitter. He's got tremendous intensity. He's bright. And he's dedicated.
You know, I watched him play, and I went back and watched the 22. And I got to tell you, watching him, he runs through tackles like Brian, not two tackles. He's aggressive. He's got a great attitude. They've got to figure a way, in my opinion, to get him on the field, because if you may be a little bit limited at linebacker, I'll tell you what, I'd like to have him play out there like a little bit like Cam Chancellor and like Brian did. And you have him out there like John Lynch roaming around in the middle of that, in that zone back there. Because I'll tell you what, he has a lot of I want to see more of him, and I want to see them get him in the game. I was really impressed with the kid Ricks too in the first game against the Ravens as well.
Well, it's amazing that he wasn't drafted.
I mean, you know what, Merrill? You know what I took away? I took away from that Ravens game this. I was pleasantly surprised by the secondary. And I thought you'd be thin there, but the way that they were talking and going back and forth, and again, like you said, it's not so much that it's an exhibition game, but you're watching them communicate, moving guys over. They're echoing the calls down the line of scrimmage. I think that's a little bit of Matt Patricia and Desai. I think there's some pretty good coaching going on out there. And I think you guys may be a little bit more versatile this year on defense. You may not be as experienced, but you may be a little more versatile and a little more athletic this year.
I think you're right. I think the talent level has improved. I mean, you lost a good man in Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. I mean, he was a big part of last year's success. But they've brought in some real talent, and I think it's going to pay off. What you add to that defense with Jalen Carter, and you bring in Sidney Brown, I mean, right there, those are two big pluses.
Let me ask you this. Nolan Smith.
Oh, and Nolan Smith.
Hey.
How can I forget? We're talking about the other guys, but Nolan Smith is also going to be a tremendous, tremendous part of that pass rush.
And what I saw in him, his first game, I saw this. This is what I would tell him. Calm down, slow down. It's going to come to you. Sometimes, Merrill, you know, when you're a rookie and you're a high draft choice, you got a lot of expectations on you, and he kind of looked like a rookie a little bit. I think the game will come to him again. If I'm him, he's got a perfect role model in Hassan Reddick to sit there and watch and really learn from.
Yeah, yeah. Haas was great. Haas had 19 and a half sacks last year, including the playoffs. So he is somebody to model yourself after. But Nolan Smith is another guy with a lot of personality and a lot of passion for the game.
I want to throw this at you here. And to me, my biggest concern on your team is Nakobe Dean.
Shouldn't be, Dan. He's
34
special.
snaps.
I'm telling you.
He's got to replace 160 tackles, Merrill.
Don't worry about that. This kid is bright. This kid is athletic. I don't have any concern at all about Nakobe Dean.
The fact that he's hurt a little bit?
A little bit's the key word. He's okay. He'll be fine.
How about Marcus Epps? Do you feel comfortable that Edmonds and Brown and some of these other guys may be able to replace 92 tackles?
Well, again, you're talking about statistics. I don't know. I haven't seen enough of Edmonds yet. I know he had some good years in Pittsburgh. I know he was the number one draft pick, but I haven't seen enough of him to really judge, quite frankly. And let's face it, you talk about a number of tackles. There's no tackling at training camp. Nobody tackles to the ground. I don't know. Other cities they might, but they don't tackle much here. But I think they've got the talent. And again, I mentioned Sidney Brown. I think Sidney Brown will be better than Epps.
I'll tell you somebody that I was impressed with, and I only saw him limited time, and that was DeAndre Swift. Let me tell you this. This kid moving around, Merrill, the way he is elusive, I'll tell you this. If they get that guy 800 yards rushing and 400 yards receiving and 50 catches, what a find. I mean, he is a smaller version of Brian Westbrook. If you can put that guy out there like that, can you imagine putting Brian Westbrook on this offense? Because I think he's a little like that.
It's so funny to hear you say that, because Tuesday night or Monday night, I was sitting there standing there at practice with Brian Westbrook, and Brian Westbrook was marveling about DeAndre Swift. He said, "I just love him." I mean, he said, "Now you see it, now you don't back." He's elusive. How about that room, Dan? There are a couple of very good football players who aren't going to make this roster. When you look at four like DeAndre Swift and Rashad Penny, and then Boston Scott, who's just dynamic, and Kenny Gainwell, who played well last year. Those are four great backs. And then you have Trey Sermon, who's a pretty good back, and Lincoln Kennedy behind them. It's a loaded room.
Couple last questions here for you, Merrill. Merrill, tell me this. What's different from this 2023 team that will be different than that 2018 team coming off that Super Bowl win? Why do you have more expectations? Or how about this? I don't know about expectations. More of a positive vibe about this team continuing its success, where that team kind of stumbled coming out of the gate a little bit. What's the difference with this team?
Well, the biggest difference with this team is, number one, Jalen Hurts. He's a top quarterback. He is a terrific quarterback. Now, Carson Wentz in 2017 was maybe the MVP when he went down, but Carson Wentz was not the same player in 2018. He was coming off a torn ACL, a torn MCL, structural damage in his knee, and then he injured a vertebrae. You look at Jalen Hurts, he's coming into the season healthy, and he is such a winner. So you never know. When people say, well, the Eagles, they're a good bet to go back to the Super Bowl, I always say it's a war of attrition. You don't know. Tell me who's going to line up for the Eagles. Tell me who's going to line up for the Cowboys on December 10th. I'll have a better idea. But we don't know. We don't know. But I will tell you, going into this season, this is a better team than that one.
Wow. Okay, finally here. I don't know, man. Maybe the Eagles landed on a quarterback. I was pretty impressed with this Tanner McKee kid, Merrill. I
Yeah,
mean, how about the vertical throws down the field there? Now, Mariota probably fits more of the skill set of what the offense is with the RPOs, but I don't know, man. That the kid made me look up and go like this. The kid from Stanford. I was like, yeah, he went on a mission. He's a little older. He kind of handles himself in the pocket pretty well. I was a little bit impressed with him the way he played in that football game.
I was too, but we're basing it on one preseason game
Yep.
against a bunch of backups. And I'm not taking away any of the credit because he is impressive, but I think it's a little early to make any kind of big emphatic judgments. And he looks good. He looks like Nick Foles.
Yeah.
He's like Nick Foles. He's about 6'6", and he does have a big arm. But you're right when you say that Marcus Mariota fits this offense better because he can run the RPO and he's extremely athletic with the ball in his hands, and he's got a strong arm. But for a 6th-round draft choice and to bring in a kid with this ability, I think right now looks like a real good move.
How many years is this now going into for you covering and calling the Eagle games?
96. Can you believe?
Holy cow, Merrill was back when you rolled your helmet up and put it in your back pocket.
Dan, it's only 47, but who's counting?
my uncle Robustelli used to say this to me, man, because I got a $400,000 signing bonus, Merrill. He didn't make $400,000 in his Hall of Fame MVP career in New York, right? And Andy goes, yeah, you guys today, this and that. And of course, we say that now about the guys today making all the money. And I go, Andy, you didn't play football, man. It was rugby. You guys put the helmet in your back pocket, went out to dinner, and you went to the you went to the bars. And he's like, no. So, I mean, you were back that far, huh?
Oh, yeah. Well, my first year was 1977.
So that was right before the Super Bowl 80 year.
Well, yeah, it was Dick Vermeil's second year.
Wow, man. He beat the – I talked to Dick the other day, man. He told me, he goes, we had 3 days, and he goes, we were just watching guys walk out and quit. It was crazy back in those days because he was turning a culture around.
But
Merrill,
I thought it was crazy last year and the year before, and maybe the year before that, because it was so light. It's an hour and a half practice once a day. But you know what, Dan? You know what the proof of the pudding is? The proof of the pudding is that 22 starters lined up for this team at the Super Bowl.
Merrill, I am totally with you on this. I am not a believer in wrecking routine. If something's working, we're going to stick with it. And if they think that the organized team practices are more important than the exhibition football games, then I'm going to sit here and do this. Well, they were healthy, one of the healthier teams the last 2 years. Maybe that's something that they learned also from 18, right, Merrill?
Mm-hmm.
And they learned a bit because they got banged up in 18 that year. Maybe they said, hey, look, we're not going to go down that route. And they're doing it right. I mean,
it's a different approach.
But it's working. So I'm with you. I don't break routine. I know that, I saw the other day they had like a 45-minute practice. I'm like, it takes 20 minutes to get your gear on. I mean, well, I'm like, man, and Coach Vermeil goes like this. He goes,
I don't remember 45 minutes, but I do know that
we slept out in the tents. And then we went to the second practice right there at Pepinroot. And he goes, I know, man. He goes, I don't know how these guys do it today, but we shall see. Merrill, thank you, my friend. I appreciate it as always.
Thank you, Dan.
You bet. The legendary Meryl Reese. Yeah, I'm a big believer. If something's working like that, right? Don't screw it up. Don't screw it up, man. There's no reason to. He's sold on Nakobe Dean. Okay, now you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take a page out of one of our viewers. I want to know why they're so comfortable and confident in Dean. I want to know why they're so comfortable and confident. Because I haven't, hey, I will back this up with all of you on him with this. Okay? I will back this up with you. I just want to know why they're comfortable when they haven't seen it. And the only thing you're going on is gut feeling. Okay? Again, it's not shade. Make me feel comfortable while you are.